Okay, today I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about 4 ways to make $10,000 per month in tech. Now, I've been through this journey myself. I started off when I finished university building websites for people. I was lucky to get $1,000 a month from my work. Now, fast forward a few years down the line, and I have 10K, 15K months at average, just over the 10K mark. So I've tried a bunch of different ways, okay, and I want to kind of talk about them in this video, give you a little bit of insight into which I think is more effective. I think any of the methods you can get to 10K a month. I think you're just going to have an easier time with certain approaches. So the questions that I'll be walking through are: what are the main models for reaching 10K per month? What are the pros and cons of each for solo freelancers? Okay, so we're trying to stay as a solo freelancer rather than become an agency or something different. How quickly can someone realistically hit 10K per month with each path? Which is the most sustainable long term and which is the fastest short term? And then what criteria should you use to decide which path is right for you? So coming back to this first one, for me, there are four main models that you can take, that you can pursue as a solo developer. Okay, you can do project-based freelancing. So this is where you're doing, for example, custom websites for people. They're one-off projects. They have a set period of time, and then you're done. Okay. The next one is contracting or retainer services. So there's a few different approaches here. You could be a solo dev working for a software startup and they're paying you monthly for your development services. I've done some of that. You could have retainer-based services where maybe you agree to do conversion rate optimization. Sorry, I got something in my eye. Sorry, maybe you do conversion rate optimization on a monthly basis, or you do technical SEO on a monthly basis. So those are retainer-based services. They're where you're getting paid month after month. And yeah, I'll come on to why I think they're quite good. Consulting, this is where you're less hands-on in the actual delivery. You're doing less of the work required, but you're being more strategic with the client. You're working with them to find their problems and understand their problems and to put together solutions, though you may not be directly responsible for fulfilling those solutions. Yeah, you could combine these as well. So you might be doing some consulting as to how someone can use LLMs more effectively within their AI application. And then you may also do some project-based freelancing to actually implement those changes that you've identified. Finally, software. There's been an absolute explosion in independent development, indie hackers, building their own apps, building their own SaaS, and making loads of money. And it is absolutely a feasible route. There's plenty of people doing it, and it is very lucrative. But for all the people that you see do really well at it, there are a hell of a lot more that fail. So what are the pros and cons of each? So for me, with project-based freelancing, the pros are that it's flexible. Okay, you get a huge amount of variety. You can have so many different types of projects going on at the same time. So if you want that flexibility, you're not really sure what you want to wholly focus on just yet, then project-based freelancing can be great. And you can make good money at it. You know, you can charge really good money for projects. I say the downside is that the income is pretty variable. You do tend to have to work pretty hard for the money you make. And when you stop working, the money stops coming in. So that is something to consider. In terms of contracting, you only need like a handful of clients to get to 10K a month. You can charge pretty good money for contracting because people are paying for your time. You're essentially like a flexible employee that they can drop at any time. So you can charge pretty good money, and yeah, very easy to reach 10K per month with this approach. The cons are that it can be the cons are that it is time consuming. You are selling your time for money. If you really want to get to that 10K a month mark, you might have to stack like multiple contracts alongside each other. So it gets time consuming, it's stressful. You have to juggle a few clients, and yeah, it's difficult to scale or impossible to scale really without hiring. So you only have so many hours in the day, and people are only willing to pay so much for those hours. Now, consulting, the pros of consulting are that it can be lucrative in the correct niche with the correct offer. Okay, it's more scalable than contracting because you're not doing the work directly yourself. You're being a strategic advisor to the client. The cons are that it requires a much deeper understanding of a problem, and that needs to be quite a big, painful problem for people. So if you're just starting out, it's hard to have the level of context that's required to do that kind of work. And also because you're not actually solving the problem for them, you're kind of seen as less valuable. If you can do both, then that's great, but then it starts taking up your time. So it's a little bit tricky, but it is a very, very good model. Finally, building software, so SaaS, mobile apps. This is the most scalable. It's got the best upside potential. There's no point in talking down how great an opportunity that is. The big issue with it is it's high risk. Okay, you have to do a lot of work to get something launched, to market, to find out whether it really works. And you can validate as much as you can before you launch, but it's never a guaranteed thing. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And ultimately, you sink a lot of time and often money into something which isn't a sure thing. So if you're not at a 10K a month mark level of income, for me, that feels super high risk. If that's a journey you're willing to go on and go on like multiple times, and you have the finances in place to support yourself through that, then by all means go ahead. But yeah, I had a little dip into SaaS and it didn't work out how I expected. And in reflection, it's a very bad use of my time. So yeah, just something to be conscious of. You might not see results for a year and you need to be able to support yourself through that. How quickly can someone realistically hit 10K per month with each path? So obviously, this is a bit of a difficult question to answer. I think really the best way for us to think about this question is like if you really speed ran it, if you really did everything perfectly, how long would it take? So like for me, it took me, I would say, just over 2 years to get to that point. Okay. And it really depends on the skills that you hold, you know? And when I talk about that, I don't mean developer skills. I don't mean technical skills. I mean business skills. Are you good at marketing? Are you good at getting yourself in front of people? Are you good at sales? Are you good at closing deals? Are you able to manage projects really well and maintain really strong relationships with your clients? And if you can do all of that, then you'll have no problem getting to 10K a month very quickly. And you could really do it with any of those routes. I think software is going to take a little bit longer. I think consulting requires a little bit more like strategic knowledge, or a lot more strategic knowledge. So it can be harder to get going with. I think the next question, which is the most sustainable long term and which is the fastest short term? Sorry, just to give you like a ballpark for the first one, like if you have all those skills like absolutely nailed, then there's no reason within like a few months you can't go to 10K a month. But the reality is you won't have all of those skills nailed, and you'll probably be somewhere more in the 1 year plus kind of range. But like I say, for me, just over 2 years. In the first year, I had none of those skills. I was massively floundering and I was failing. But that's why I'm putting content like this out. So hopefully for some of you, it doesn't take 2 years and it takes closer to 6 months. Which is the most sustainable long term and which is the fastest short term? So short term, speed to 10K a month would be contracting. Okay, it does take up a lot of your time, but there are startups, there's businesses out there that are willing to pay good money to have essentially flexible employees just plowing hours into their product. And so, yeah, I think that's a really great route. In terms of sustainability, I think consulting is probably the best because it's a bit more scalable because you're not directly involved in implementation, you're more strategic, it's less time, it's less just like raw hours put into it. So the kind of pay versus input reward is quite strong there, and that makes it very sustainable. Software would also be sustainable long term, but it's much more high risk getting started. So I wouldn't have that as my favorite there. And what criteria should you use to decide which path is right for you? Well, I think it depends on your existing abilities and your strengths. I think there's some limitations. If you're just getting started, it's really going to be very difficult for you to build a software that goes to the moon or to really do deep strategic consulting, unless you have like a career background in a particular field, which people will find valuable. If you crave variety and flexibility, then I would go for project-based freelancing. If you have deep domain expertise, I would go for consulting. If you just have like raw horsepower for output, then I would go for contracting. And if you're a proven marketer and can wait up to a year for financial reward, then I would go software. So yeah, that's the knowledge dump on 4 ways to make 10K a month in tech based on my own experience and my own journey over the past few years. I hope you find that useful. If you have any questions or you want to chat with me about it more, please do let me know. Just connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a DM there, and we'll take it from there. But other than that, like, comments. No, I'm not doing that. Oh, right. Have a good day. Cheers. Bye.